Hello everyone! Thank you for stopping by. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing one of the books that I said I'll be reading for October in my previous video, my October spooky season book haul. And without further ado, the one it is, you might be able to tell by the t-shirt, is Devolution by Max Brooks. It's Devolution, a first-hand account of the Rainier Sasquatch Massacre. That's right, I'm reading the Bigfoot one first because it was the one I was most excited about, because as I said in the other video, I really like cryptozoology. It's a very interesting subject to me. I think there's so many things out there that we just don't understand. And, you know, is it there? Is it not there? Who knows? But I have got, for this review, my Sasquatch shirt. Sasquatch. Sass, you know. Sassy. They're sassy squatches. Not really in his book. No, they're not like that. But normally I wear like a cute dress or vintage thing for these videos. I have a bunch of those that I like to wear because I'm not going anywhere else right now, but this is kind of like what I wear on the regular, just a shirt and leggings. So let's just keep it real. Let's just do that. But this is my Sasquatch shirt. I've got my glass of wine. So without further ado, let's just get into it. Let's get into Devolution. The plot of this book is basically we're following a character. The main character is Kate McRae, and she's been keeping a journal because she's been having troubles with her husband Dan. They're just kind of at that place in relationships, especially when you got together young. So they got together in college. He was kind of the man, and he's had like, you know, some setbacks, some failures, and he's really just kind of struggling. And they're not communicating. She's struggling. She doesn't know what to do. So her brother, Frank, he's also having trouble in his marriage. So him and his husband are divorcing, him and his Shelby. They're getting divorced. And at first I was like, well, misery loves company, doesn't it? You just want your sister to get divorced too. But no, that's reading too much into it. So he's going on an extended business trip to China, and he needs somebody to house sit for him. So Kate lives in Los Angeles right now, and her brother Frank lives in this community called Green Loop. So it's like this green, eco, high-tech community about 50 miles outside Mount Rainier. So he's like, hey, I'm going on this business trip. I need someone to house sit for me. You're in a place trying to figure things out. How about you just come and stay at my house, and you can just take some time and figure things out. And so she's like, okay, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I think I'm gonna go do that. So her and her husband move up to Green Loop. So Green Loop is kind of this high-tech community. It's the brainchild of this character called Tony, who's kind of like a Steve Jobs or Elon Musk type character. He's very charismatic, and he just wants to create, you know, a community within nature that is also without nature, that it's sustaining, and people can live their best lives. That's basically it. And they have a little chapter about his community versus a couple other experiments around the world, which I liked. That was really cool to have that information. I like that my books have a little bit of character building in the beginning, and there's also a lot of like little things that will pop up later. Like, I like that type of stuff. So I enjoyed it, and kind of like Kate and her husband's dynamic and the other characters and what's going on, a little bit what's going on in their lives. I like all that stuff. I think that's interesting. And all of this is setting the stage for the catastrophe that happens, which is Mount Rainier exploding. So Mount Rainier is a volcano. I actually didn't know this. So I didn't know that. Like, I know about Mount St. Helens. I didn't know Mount Rainier was actually a volcano. So that was really interesting to me. People might want to think about that a little bit, but I'm sure it's fine. It's fine. But anyway, Mount Rainier explodes and cuts them off from society because there's a cable running underground, like a fiber optics cable that brings them, you know, their internet, their phone, like basically everything. So Rainier explodes, it cuts it off, and so now they're all alone, this little community. And chaos just kind of starts to unravel. So at first things are fine. Of course, things are fine. Like, you know, it's like all of us during COVID, just watching everything explode, and we're like, this is fine. This is fine. This is totally fine. This is... So they're fine until they're not fine, which is how a lot of disaster stories go. At first, like, other animals start trickling in, and I like seeing this. I like seeing that, like, the other animals are showing up, and they're, like, eating, like, they have fruit trees, and they're kind of, like, eating at the fruit trees, and there's like, one character in there. She's really cool, Malstar, and she's been through this because she went through the Serbo-Croatian War. She's a survivor of that, so she knows about surviving and disasters and all this stuff. She has all these survival skills, because of course in every story you have to have one person who's like, you know, everyone else is like, this is fine, this is like, we're gonna be fine, and you have to have one person who's like, okay, but can we be a little bit prepared? Like, we're fine, but can we, like, make some weapons and build a garden, and can we just be, like, prepared for what might happen? She's that character, and she's awesome. So, like, the other animals are showing up, like, the deers are eating from their trees, and Molstar and Kate, like, I think Molstar is really thinking that she's like, man, we should really kill one of those deers. Just kill one of them. Like, that's a lot of meat right there. That's great. But they don't. But you have to think about it as prey animals start coming in. Like, what else is following prey? Like, what else is there? So Sasquatches follow, because there are all kinds of stories about Sasquatches in the Pacific Northwest, actually all over. Sasquatch stories are everywhere. I grew up in Arkansas and Missouri. The stories are all there. Yeah, they're there. My older sister and my brother, they have a story. If you're interested, I will tell you, but in another video later if you want. Let me know in the comments if you want to hear that one. Anyway, so that's pretty much the premise, is that we have this huge disaster, cuts them off, and everyone's so busy with that, no one's even thinking, because their community is apparently so far outside the search zone that they're basically not really affected by the volcano, which I also find interesting. But they are still cut off from everything, because it's a community. There's one road in, one road out. And there's an interesting part in the beginning of the book where, because Kate is really enamored with Tony, probably because her marriage is on the rocks, and she's just like, every time she sees Tony, she's like, oh my god, Tony. Hi, Tony. Like, you know, like, she's like, Tony, oh my gosh. And she looks at him because they have their groceries delivered weekly by drones, and she just looks at him and his ruggedness, and she goes, oh, it's like, Tony's really thought of everything. Tony hasn't thought of everything because he didn't think of Sasquatches. So it's all his fault. Like, you didn't plan for Sasquatches? Really? Really, Tony? You didn't do that? But he didn't. But that is pretty much the premise of the book. So, stuff I liked about the book. I really liked the parts where the journalist was interviewing the park ranger, and they were discussing primate behavior, and he was applying it to Sasquatches, because it makes a lot of sense. So basically, Max Brooks, he made it very believable. Based on what we know in science and primate behavior, he made the Sasquatches very believable, in that they would behave in a certain way. And I thought that was cool, because he wasn't just taking from, like, Sasquatch, like, stories and lore. He actually went back to science, and I thought that was really, really cool, and he did a really, really good job of it. Like I feel like he really looked into Jane Goodall and other primatologists and just what they said, and he quotes them in the book, and I thought that was really good. And I will say, like, I'm an anthropology major, so I ate that up. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's really cool that you did all that. So I love that. The found journal aspect, he made it work. I was impressed because when I first read that it was like a found journal, I was skeptical, but he made it work. He writes really well, and he found a way to just make it work with the story. So I really liked that. His writing is really good. Like, I loved the flow of the story. It wasn't jarring to read. I have a thing about it, like, when I'm reading, and when you read it, it just flowed really well. His style, it flowed. It was good. One idea into another. It was great. It wasn't jarring. The scenes with the Sasquatches. So this was my big thing coming into a Sasquatch book, is that I was afraid it would be cheesy. That was one of the things going into this book that had me, I kind of paused for a second when I saw it. I knew I wanted it. I thought, I really want to read this, but I'm like, it could be cheesy. They were not cheesy. They were very, very intense scenes. There are several very, very intense scenes, and it's not cheesy. It's not cheesy, it's not playing around, and he writes it really well. Like, I'm sitting here with my blankets and reading, I'm like, like, staying up way past when I should, just trying to get through the most intense scenes, because you can't just stop, like, oh, I'm gonna stop here when it's doing this. No, you're just gonna keep going. You're just gonna keep going. Yeah. So those are great scenes, and those are some of my favorite bits of it. Stuff I didn't like. It's really little stuff for me in this book. One of the things is that they're cut off, but it's like nobody knows they're there, or I guess the explosion is so big and they're worrying about so many other things, and that's kind of how he puts it, that there's so much else going on and they're just way outside that no one really thinks about them. But Tony does this whole press release, so I'm like, somebody knows they're there, and her brother Frank knows they're there, and he's like, I was calling, and so you just can't get in, you can't do this. But they also have like a helipad, and I'm just sitting here thinking, like, Tony being who he is, somebody would be like, oh my god, where is this person? If he's like, Elon Musk disappears, someone's gonna go find him. Or, you know, Marvel Universe, Tony Stark disappears, yeah, you need to go find him. Or whoever. You know, like, people are gonna be like, okay, where is this person at? So it's kind of, and they do have a helipad, which I explained, so I'm kind of like, I just find it, because here's the thing, here's another thing. You can't get away in our society. Like, you can't go on vacation without somebody. You can go to a deserted island and you will get a work email. That is the world that we live in. We are in a global pandemic and we're still going to work and still going to school, and people can still find you. So just for me, the idea that people can't find you even in circumstances like this is kind of like, well, you just have to just like, well, I guess I'll just accept that. Another thing is that so the character, as I mentioned, Mostar, she gets Kate to build a garden. I don't know if any of y'all have built a garden. I have. It's a lot of work. A lot of work. You can't just throw in dirt, throw down seeds, and things grow. That's not how it works. That is not how it works. It's just a lot of work that goes into that. And plus, so they only have weekly groceries, so they don't have a lot of food stores. So I'm feeling like they should be out of food in like 2 weeks. Maybe 3 or 4, but they should definitely be out of food very, very soon in their community. And yeah, those cute little deers eating your fruit, you should probably take one of them down. I was like, you should probably take one of them down while you can. Probably take one. But they don't. So anyway, I found that kind of like, you know, I didn't believe that part. Plus, nobody in this community gardens. Like, nobody already has a garden. Nobody has tools. Nobody has anything. And the thing I really didn't believe about that was that there was an older vegan couple, and you're telling me they don't have a garden, an organic garden? I've known lots of vegans, and at some point, they will be into gardening, especially in their older years. Like, you just start growing your own vegetables because it's cost effective. I mean, it's just something they do. So that's a little like, it's little things like that. Like, for me, it wasn't big things. Some people have big problems with it, but that's just little things. You just gotta kind of shut off your brain and just be like, well, this is what it is. So one of the main themes of the book that I picked up on is that we've grown very far from nature, and nature will remind us of who we are. It's a prominent theme in the book. It's man versus nature, and then, as he says, the devolution of man kind of coming back into its primal state, and you also see the Sasquatches kind of learning and evolving in a different state. But it's very much about how we don't have a balance with nature anymore, and nature's just gonna remind us of who we are, and that's one of the big themes of the book, is that we need to come back to a place with nature and find more harmony. And that was my big takeaway from it. It has some pretty intellectual parts like that. And overall, I enjoyed it. It had thrills, it had chills, the writing's really good, and yeah, I would give it a 4 out of 5. And that's my review. That's how I feel about it. I don't want to give too much away. I don't want to spoil the ending, but that's basically my takeaway, and I really enjoyed it, and I do recommend it. So what did you think? If you read it and you like it, you love it, you hate it, please leave a comment below, and I would just love to hear from you guys, get some feedback, and start a conversation about it. So thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next video. Tchauzinho.